Picatrix, the ancient manuscript teaching us how to draw energy from the universe. It was the aim of the sage, or the goal of the wise. It's the name of this mysterious ancient manuscript, Picatrix, written in the Middle Ages, in the 10th century, in Andalusia of Spain, otherwise known as Hayat al-Hakim. It's the book that brings together all the Arabic wisdom, the wisdom from the depths of the centuries. It's an encyclopedic work, and you can find the PDF here on this article, about 500 pages. The encyclopedic work, much larger than all the other medieval writings and books of astrological magic. It was translated into Latin in 1256 by the Castilian king Alfonso the Wise, and took the Latin name Picatrix. This book is a strange alloy of the highest philosophy and coarser materials, an alloy of interpretation of the nature of the one and only God, and a synthesis of bodily materials used in magical rituals. Picatrix provides information on the inner nature of the planets and plain stars in relation to astrological magic. We know that 5 centuries or more after its writing, this book was the source of knowledge and inspiration for the famous Nostradamus, the greatest visionary, physician, and astrologer, whose controversial prophecies are still the subject of research. One of the contents of this enigmatic book is that it teaches the reader how to draw the energy that exists in the universe and in creation and use it to his advantage. The mystery of the case is that opiates and psychotropic drugs are used in the combination with the use of numerology and other principles of astrological magic, and the reader can be transported to an alternative state of reality, even to achieve astral projection. You can imagine with all these things that he has to take. Now, the book mentions through its pages techniques and spells through which you can control animals, but also forces that the common man cannot perceive. It mentions ways in which you can come in contact with the forces of nature, but also how to control the weather. Wow. Finally, well, you can imagine. That would be nice. I mean, maybe global warming could stop finally with this type of effort. I'm sorry. Anyway, going back to this, finally, the lunar calendar in the book strongly analyzes the trends in human behavior, something that is almost directly related to today's astrology and the zodiac signs. It's a book that was the guide of many alchemists in the Middle Ages. People and entire cities lived by the principles of this manuscript. And by its nature, mysterious, enigmatic, but perhaps even dangerous, we could say, but it is an existing grimace that is still subject of study by many, and always the conclusions are yours. And this I've translated from a Greek article. Now, Wikipedia also tells us the contents and sources. The work divided into 4 books, which exhibit the marked absence of systematic exposition. Jean Sesnek observed Picatrix prescribes propitious times and places and the attitude and gestures of the suppliant. He also indicates what terms must be used in petitioning the stars. In other words, there are certain words for the conjuring and spells. I don't know, what can you say? As an example, Sesnek then reproduces a prayer to Saturn, the planet Saturn, from the work, noting that Fritz Saxy has pointed out that this invocation exhibits, quote, the accent and even the very terms of a Greek astrological prayer to Kronos. Kronos is the Greek word for the planet Saturn. This is one indication that the sources of Picatrix are in large part Hellenistic, from ancient Greece. We know that the ancient Greeks had the pagan religion of what the Druids had in the United Kingdom and Germany and Northern Europe. This was actually the ancient Greek pantheon of gods, and they were even using the same spells and the same rituals. Now, according to the prologue, the author reaches over 200 works in the creation of Picatrix, but there are three significant Near or Middle East influences: Jabir ibn Hayyan, the Brethren of Purity, and Ibn Washiya's Nabatean agriculture. The influence of Jabir ibn Hayyan comes from the form of a cosmological background that removes magical practices from the context of diabolical influences and reasserts these practices as having a divine origin. The author of Picatrix utilizes Neoplatonic theories of hypostasis that mirror the work of Jabir ibn Hayyan. Now, what are the Neoplatonic theories? If we refer to the philosophical and religious system beginning at the work of Plotinus in 245 AD, that teaches interpretations of the philosophy and theology of Plato of ancient Greece, extending to Middle Platonism of the intervening centuries of 80 to 245 AD. Anticipation of experimental method, according to Wikipedia, Martin Plesner suggests that the translator of Picatrix establish a medieval definition of scientific experiment by changing the passage in the Hebrew translation of the Arabic original, establishing a theoretical basis for the experimental method. Quote, the invention of an hypothesis in order to explain a certain natural process, then the arranging of conditions under which that process may intentionally be brought about in accordance with the hypothesis, and finally, the justification or refutation of the hypothesis depending on the outcome of the experiment, end quote. Plesser notes that it's generally agreed that awareness of the specific nature of the experimental method, as distinct from the practices and use of it, is an achievement of the 16th and 17th centuries. However, as the passage by the translator of the Hebrew version makes clear, the fundamental theoretical basis for the experimental method was here established prior to the middle of the 13th century. The Hebrew translator changed the passage in question, including the following. He says, and that was the reason which incited me to devote myself to astrological magic. Moreover, these secrets were already made known by nature, and the experience approved them. The man dealing with nature has nothing to do but producing a reason for what the experience has brought out. And Plesser notes that neither the Arabic psychology of study nor Hebrew definition of experiment is rendered in the Latin Picatrix. The Latin translator omits many theoretical passages throughout the work. So in any case, this is the work that the medieval people were into, especially Nostradamus. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.